protecting our community is worth a shot. Vaccines can help protect you, your family, and our community. Stop by James Drugstore today.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and today I am joined by a man who finally has a voice. Since after Ida, I know you had to do, or in response to Ida, you had to do a lot of work and a lot of yelling. You and I ran into each other last week, and as I said earlier, it sounded like you wanted to whisper me some kind of secret or something. So I'm going to let you take about 10 seconds to introduce yourself, and thanks for coming today.
Oh, thank you for having me, McHugh. Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard. It's always good to be here. And yes, I do finally have my voice back, so I'm glad to be able to speak today.
And we're gonna get to that in just a bit, why you lost it. But first, I want to ask you, we're going to be talking a lot about Ida today, Ida response, what happened after. Have you ever in your lifetime seen a storm that bad here in Livingston Parish? Of course, we've seen Katrina, Gustav, Andrew back in the 90s, that kind of thing. But for a storm of that magnitude to make it all the way here, have you ever seen anything like that?
Oh, absolutely not. I've actually been here for a long time. I started sheriff's office in 1993, and that was right after Andrew. Mm-hmm. And so I can still remember that as a young man, and working through Katrina and Gustav and Rita. I mean, all the storms that we've had, the 16 flood. This storm was something like I've never experienced. And let me tell you this part. This was the first storm that I actually was at my home and not in a vehicle out in the storm. Gustav, I remember being in a vehicle with another deputy watching the trees break in half, and we were actually stationed and trying to make sure we kept the roadways open as much as we could and just kind of riding out the storm. That's what we've always done. Because of the information that was coming in on this storm and the wind, the impact, and we knew that where the eye was coming, we just felt like that we were probably going to be may lose communication. And that's something that can be really scary if you don't have phones, you don't have any type of radio towers. Communication is essential. So we went ahead and had to put a plan in place to be able to be in different parts of the parish. I actually have recently moved to Springfield. So I think the eye came right over my house, and it didn't even wink at me because it went away when it got over my house. So it was an unbelievable experience to the point where I stopped myself in the middle of the storm, just sitting there thinking that I should have never kept my family here. Like, this is a scary time. Like, I've never seen or heard the things that we heard that night of the wind and watching the wind come through there, the 120 mile an hour sustained winds and 160 mile an hour wind gusts and tornadoes. It was a sight to be seen, and what you could see of it. And of course, I live on Blood River, so watching the waves actually get bigger and bigger. So it was just like something out of a movie. It was really somewhat mesmerizing.
Sure, it was. It was a little surreal. My home here in Denham Springs is surrounded by oak trees, and I saw them do things that they're probably not supposed to do.
Yes.
Bend and twisted, and we had a couple of scares, and I thought the same thing. My stepchildren and my wife left. My mom and I stayed. Hindsight 2020, we got lucky.
Right.
That we didn't have damage, and of course there I was ready to go pick up debris the next morning. So speaking on that, I know we were going to talk about the sheriff's office response, but talking about debris and your personal experience. So you talked about the night of, right? You're watching the river kind of do some crazy things. You're watching trees do crazy things. When you're getting up the next day, as I understand it, you kind of found out you were trapped.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's, around 1 or 2 in the morning when the winds actually did calm down a little bit, I was able to get in my truck and kind of drive down the road to kind of do a little bit of an assessment. I knew then that I was trapped. Well, luckily, I still actually had enough service to be able to text people. I couldn't call, but we were able to get some text messages out. And so I knew that the next morning that we were going to have to, without a doubt, cut our way out. And I say we, I'm the type of guy that I try to do everything I can on my own, but whenever you're surrounded by neighbors that are willing to help and a community that wants to do the right thing, So we came together and did that. So we got up the next morning early and just basically got our chainsaws ready, and we went to work. And we cut our way out of where I live at is close to Carter Plantation, down Panther Road, toward the Springfield High School, where I was actually able to meet up with some other deputies. They were all actually deputies just trying to find where I was at, and we linked up and was able to try to get some other deputies out. And what I try to do at the sheriff's office, and we sit down and we come up with a plan of what do we think is going to happen. And it's kind of hard to predict Mother Nature. But in this instant, like I said earlier, my biggest fear was lack of communication and the ability to be able to communicate. And so we know from the past experience of these dealing with storms, you have 24 hours to get your deputies in a place where they can go to work. What I mean by that is the first 24 hours, a lot of people, unless there is an emergency situation, medical, whatever, they need to, you can't get to them, right? And I can't send a deputy if I don't have a deputy.
Right.
So the first 24 hours, I need to get my deputies whole. I need to get them to work. So we have a plan to get that done. How do I get these deputies? So we have a chainsaw crews. Get this deputy out of his home. Get this deputy. I need those units on the road. So, and I know I always say that 24 hours to get that done. So that was our plan. And the plan worked. We were able to do that. We was able to make sure that we could then open the roadways up to emergency vehicles. And then, of course, we go and do our thing and turn the rest over to the parish. And the fire department was very instrumental in helping us with that. And the citizens were huge on this storm. It was so great to watch our citizens out there. Matter of fact, on my way out, as I'm cutting trees, dreaming of having a tractor or something
Sure.
other than a chainsaw.
Right.
My neighbor actually walked up that I had met once before, and he had a tractor that we were able to cut out, and he helped me, and it was great to have someone to have equipment, and that's what we seen all day long.
Sure.
So that was our plan. I think we wound up getting to the office around 3 o'clock. I did around 3 o'clock, and I can tell you I was wore out. It was a long day.
Well, yeah, and that's probably what contributed to the voice loss. I mean,
without a doubt.
How did people describe it in the days after? There was the low hum of chainsaws and generators, and
Yes.
that's about all you heard for a while in most
Yes.
places. And so, as you're barking out commands and trying to move through all this, at some point you lost your voice.
Well, I did, and we have to have. So we meet at 3 o'clock. We meet every day. We get our plan for the day. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And I also know usually after that 24-hour period, unfortunately, we have people in our parish that like to start looting.
Right.
And that's just what they do. And so we have to have that plan in place and ready to protect and serve this parish. And so that's what we did. We actually called. I knew that we were going to need help, and this can be very tiresome. That's probably why I lost my voice nonstop, and that's just what we do. But at the end of the day, whenever you can actually reach out to these other parishes that we have helped in the past, they have helped us to be able to get other sheriff's deputies. I think we had around 30 on an average day to help us with the patrols. And look, it was from anything from just traffic, because we had some traffic issues, especially whenever they started opening up some of the gas stations. We did the best we could to help with that. Sometimes we couldn't do that because we had so many other things going on. And then of course at night we dealt with the looting, and then we get with Parish President Leighton Ricks about our curfew. Sometimes people get a little aggravated with the curfew, but it's also something that's very, very important for us to do, because we're not out looking for people like yourself that's having to go to work and trying to get things done, or maybe you need something from the house that's very essential to have. These deputies use their discretion. But if you look at the stats, unfortunately, people take advantage of the situation that we're in. So having a curfew actually helps these deputies to make those discretionary decisions. So if we have a curfew set at 10 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m., usually around 11 p.m., them deputies are going to start really paying attention, and usually can tell that somebody's up to no good. And so I think we came across about close to 100 people that we dealt with for possible curfew violations. We issued somewhere around 85 arrests. Not all of those arrests were actually put in jail. Majority of them was, but if we come across someone that's we think is actually breaking the curfew, then we will charge them with a curfew violation. But normally that goes along because they had drugs in the car, they had some other type of misdemeanor violation, or with that curfew violation. So we don't go out and just sit there and write curfew violations. We use our discretion. And look, I'm a father. I have 2 kids that are in college. And I'm going to tell you, I have never, ever seen the debris and the trees that were down that I've seen in this parish. And we still today, matter of fact, yesterday morning, I turned on one of these little roads and took my eye and looked to the left, because that's just what I was scanning, looked back to the right and almost hit a stump that was still sticking out in the road that I've seen multiple times. It's still a hazard in certain areas. So could you imagine whenever you have no electricity, it's completely dark, and your college age or your teenager is driving around at 10 o'clock at night? And look, let's just be honest here. We're parents, right?
Right.
We like when the curfew comes out, because now we can help maybe control our kids a little bit, right? And I told my daughter and my son, look, y'all need to be off the road before dark. It's very dangerous over here. And both my kids live in Hammond, which was just as probably more impacted than the Springfield area.
Yeah, our sports editor here lives in Hammond, and I mean, he had a tree through his house. It's been rough. But yeah, I mean, that's, it's a lot like when the schools have to make a determination with their buses. There are a lot of people in this parish. There's a lot of varying socioeconomic standards and things of that nature. But like you said, especially when you get into some places, Livingston and farther, when you get right outside of town, it gets real dark real quick.
Yes.
And it can be very dangerous. And I've gone down 22 a couple of times, and it's a little strange to be driving down there and suddenly there's, the stump and what's left of the trunk of a tree just sticking out, but
Right.
DOTD cleared the roads, but they didn't take that with them. So it's been very interesting. It's that way in a lot of places.
Normally you have a shoulder, right?
Normally.
You have a ditch. You don't. You usually have these trees were cut right on the edge of the asphalt.
Right.
So there's no forgiveness at all. So it gets pretty dangerous.
So you've gone through, you kind of took us through a timeline. Day one, you're just trying to get out. You finally connect with your deputies, kind of assessing damage. And tell us a little bit about that real quick. When you're dealing with such a staff like you have, there's and you have a little bit of experience because of the flood, obviously. That was devastating. But what's that like, trying to check in with your deputies, to see, who's got what damage, who's in trouble, that kind of thing?
Well, it's kind of funny if you go back. I can go back pretty far, but for some reason, Katrina is what really sticks out to me, where your law enforcement agencies, especially the sheriff's office, and I can only speak for Livingston and Livingston Parish, we became real life first responders. And what I mean by that, we became just as like any other first responder, because before then, I didn't really use a chainsaw, right? But Katrina taught us something, that no matter what uniform or what badge you wear, you're a first responder. And I remember as a young deputy that just kind of entered in my brain. Like, I spent so many days with a chainsaw and actually working with fire departments and other first responders. So it was just kind of different. So fast forward into the flood, one of the things I dealt with in the flood was watching these deputies they've lost everything. So they went from coming up there really just in this state of mind where they're very emotional, but they still there to do their job, and they're worried about their family and they're concerned about their family. So in order for me to do my job in this parish, to be able to provide that safety, to be able to serve and protect the community, I have to have these deputies in a place where they're ready. So it really taught me a lesson to do what you can for your deputies. And that's why I ventured out and said, look, I need to do what I can to get these families in a hotel room, a trailer park. What do I need to do to make them whole? And that's what I did. And I found that when I started doing that, their whole personality, attitudes changed. They knew that their families were going to be okay. Overnight, I had them in hotel rooms. They seen me fighting with FEMA to get this trailer park done. We had it done like in 30 days. They had their families moved in a mobile home, and and they had a year or so to fix their homes. And so you could see the relief. And so so fast forwarding today, when I hit, we had plans on, went ahead and had some contract crews that we had reached out to some friends and said, hey, can we prioritize these deputies? Because I really need to do this. And so they did. I think I had 3 or 4. We wasn't trying to hoard it from the rest of the parish, but I said, if these deputies get some considerable amount of damage, I need to do what we can to fix their homes. So that's what we did, and it took us about 48 hours. Not only were we working the first 24 to get the deputies out, they also knew that we already had contractors for them to use to tarp their homes. So that stress was gone. They could come to work. They could patrol your subdivisions and make sure that no one was looting and not be so concerned about their families. So that's what I focused on, to make sure the deputies were ready and able to work, because I have to have them. We can't do it all on our own. This is an absolute team effort.
Sure, and it's a huge parish.
Yes.
You brought it up earlier. I want to talk about the logistics of the gas stations. That was a very difficult time. 48 hours to about maybe even up to 5, 6, 7 days after Ida had come and gone. A lot of gas stations still didn't have power, so they couldn't pump your gas. A lot of gas stations that did have power, or at least a backup generator and could pump gas, were running out. What were some of the internal discussions y'all were having? Like, how do you deal with something like that?
So I'm a type of guy too that I don't. Sometimes whenever we have these things going on, I reach out, and so does these other sheriffs. We talk. So I talked to my friend Bobby Weber, who's sheriff of Ascension Parish, several times. I reached out to Sid Gotro in East Baton Rouge a couple of times. Just say, what are y'all seeing? What are y'all doing? And the other sheriffs down south, and we had a big discussion on the gas stations. And so Sheriff Weber in Ascension actually was having some of his staff directing traffic and things of that nature. So we were a little slow to get to that because we had so many other things going on. By the time we did get to it, was like day 5 and 6, where we were starting to see a little bit of relief, where power was starting to get back on in the Denham Springs area and Walker area, where it was more available to everyone. So we just kind of watch it. I think we even had, unfortunately, had a shooting at one of the gas stations. We had another person pull out a baseball bat. So we were patrolling them, but one of the things we wasn't doing was directing the traffic. And then we started to get a plan to do that. And again, it kind of fixed itself before we were able to get to that. So it's, you just kind of, every day you meet, and I rely on the 20 administration people I have to tell me what's going on in the parish. What is your deputies reporting back to you? What problems are we having? How do we fix them? So it's, again, it's a group effort, and then I'll make a decision at the end of the meeting of, this is how we need to make this work. So we just, it's a day by day operation, because it may be traffic today, tomorrow it may be something different,
Sure.
So and again, a lot of people forget too that we do have waterways, and we have more navigable waterways in Livingston Parish and anywhere in Louisiana. So we knew when the water started going down that was going to be another issue we were going to have to deal with.
So that's actually was going to be the next place I was going. So thanks for reading my mind. Livingston Parish has been deemed now for a while a coastal community. Right. You talked earlier about living near Blood River and watching waves get generated. There were places in South Livingston that flooded. Lake Maurepas got pushed up from storm surge and flooded some places. A lot of those homes down there are elevated, though, so the water goes underneath it, but roads unpassable. I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I did see that you went out with your Marine Division at some point. What was that like? It was
just a strange thing to see stuff that, I've been very fortunate to be able to go around our state. Last year, as the Sheriff's Association president, when we had Laura hit over in the
Lake Charles.
Lake Charles area. I'm sorry, thank you.
You're welcome.
We went. It was so much devastation. So I've seen it before. I've seen the devastation and what it does to homes. But riding around and watching, there's a camp sitting here, and then there was 3 camps beside it. There's nothing but the pollens, and it's like, wow. And then you just it was just unbelievable. And a lot of trees, of course, there is a lot of waterways that you're not going to be able to get down for a while. I'm very concerned about that. Watching the news every day, watching the weather. What is this water going to do? What is Tickfall River going to do? That became a really big topic, and everybody was paying attention. And me being around for a long time, talking to Leighton Ricks, talking to some of my councilmen, we were really concerned about it. Is all these trees and debris down in these waterways going to cause flooding problems? Because they're talking now at the moment that this is going to be right at 2016, maybe a little above. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's when you start saying that, the hair is standing up on the back of my neck. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. Like we're just getting through this. Now we're going to do it again. So we have to gear up for it and be ready. Thankfully, I actually do have air support. We have a helicopter. We're able to actually get a bird's eye view, and getting up in that chopper, being able to fly those riverways, and along with some councilmen and our president to look and see what we have to deal with. It was just amazing to see that many trees. It's almost like Mother Nature was on the course of every single waterway, because the majority of the trees, that's where they were down at. It was crazy. It was like you seen water, it stood out because there was no trees blocking it. They were in it.
Right.
And it was just unbelievable to see that. So it was eerie. Thank the good Lord that we didn't have a lot of flooding issues. And when we did, they were minor. And so just riding around and looking, of course, one of the things that I talked about, this is just kind of off the subject a little bit, but it is on the subject. I've never in my life, especially during my law enforcement career, and being the ability to be in a helicopter looking at the waterways, have seen so many alligators and the size of alligators we've seen on Tickfall River coming out of that swamp because of the fish kill. It was it was unbelievable. So they were everywhere. At first we were like, well, maybe they came in from, the storm surge. And the more we got to looking, these were coming out of the swamp, because, the Tickfall area is a huge swamp area.
Sure.
And so it was just a little side note. You might want to be careful if you're tubing down the river.
I was just about to say, a reminder to be careful.
Yeah, in that area, because I can tell you this boy's toes won't be in that river for a little while after what I seen.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And yeah, we did. We lucked out here, as we saw in sort of the Tennessee, North Carolina, New Jersey, New York. And that should go ahead and tell you, every single one of those states had flooding issues from Ida. It just blew over us so fast. We lucked out when it came to the rain.
We absolutely did.
And unfortunately, our luck is their unluck, I guess you could call it.
It is.
Anything you'd like to say to sort of wrap up the Ida portion of this? Well,
McHugh, the biggest thing of me is I really want to say thank you to our community, because I'm telling you, we couldn't have accomplished what was accomplished without the citizens doing what they did every day. This was not only the first responders, your fire departments, your law enforcement. This was a actual community effort, period. And we couldn't have gotten where we're at today if it wasn't for them. I remember days after the storm, still driving around these partially blocked roads and these trees and debris, and a couple of days later, actually communities out there with their chainsaws and their tractors making sure these roadways are clean. They're just doing their part. And not only them, but we had 6 different agencies from across the state that actually came to us. We had other agencies that was actually throughout the state and other parishes that were hit. And I just want to tell them thank you. I mean, thank you to my fellow sheriffs, my community, and everyone, and also to the news media. I mean, you guys were instrumental in getting information out, and we do the best we can with what we have. And those times that we have to work together to make sure our citizens know everything we can possibly tell them.
Sure. And, Facebook constantly putting stuff out in their wonderful algorithm, but we did our best to get it out there. So moving on to a happier note real quick as we wrap up the show. It is the fourth quarter. We're barreling towards Christmas, and your crusade, the efforts for your Christmas crusade have started already, as you told me before the show. So I just want you to throw a little bit of information because there's a donation period and then there's a distribution period, correct?
Correct. Well, we actually have already started. My wife Erica does that. I'm very thankful that she is able to do what she does, but she's already planning early because of Ida and because of what's going on across our nation with these shortages and can't find this and can't find that, and we want to make sure these kids get a Merry Christmas because that's what the program is about. As you can see that I don't like to show off how gray I can get with my beard, but we do have a little fun deal that we do at our office where these deputies actually pay money to be able to grow a beard, or maybe I should say so they don't have to shave. So it has become a really fun time for us, and we raise anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000 just for the deputies. And so we take monetary donations throughout the year, and so we already have started our shopping. We will actually start the Friday after Thanksgiving, where you'll see deputies at the 3 locations of the Walmart locations across the parish, usually Bass Pro, and we'll actually be taking new toys and, again, monetary donations starting right after the Christmas, first week of December, we will start taking applications, and that usually runs around 2 weeks. And then once that period is up, we'll actually start bagging the toys, which I think is set for around 11th of December. And then the delivery date is usually the following Friday. And we'll actually all come together and we'll deliver toys throughout the parish. It's something we've been doing for well over 30 years. And I'm very happy to be able to be a part of that program with these deputies. So it's a fun time. And look, my God, what we've been through, it's just something to really look forward to. And it's always an opportunity for these deputies and myself to give back to our parish, who are so very giving to us.
Sure. So please remember, Christmas Crusade, it is the season.
Yes.
And you guys will be collecting donations, as you said, right up until that first week of December. So please keep that in mind as you move forward. Of course, David Gray will be staying in touch with y'all to let people know where you can donate or where deputies can be found. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I heard a rumor that you are going to be retiring after this term. So I wanted to see if you'd answer that one way or another. If is that true?
No, that is not true. I have no idea where that rumor started. I have no intentions on retiring. I know I might look old. I don't think I do. I mean, I haven't even hit 50 yet. So my plan is I have so many things I want to accomplish for our sheriff's office. And it's just I haven't even really thought about retirement. So I have a lot of years left in me, and when I get to that time, I'll make sure that the citizens know. But right now, I have no intentions on retiring anytime soon. Hopefully, as long as the citizens will have me and my health will allow me, I will be here for many more years.
Okay. Well, sir, we do appreciate you taking the time today. It was interesting to hear some of the background about, because there are a lot of people who don't like the curfew, don't like this, don't like that, but it's good for, to hear that there is definitely a method to that. So
Right.
Thank you for taking the time today. If you'll reintroduce yourself as we head on out here.
Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard, and thank you, McHugh, for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for taking the time here on Wednesday morning. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys out there who are listening or watching for joining us today. We got to talk to Sheriff Jason Ard about post-Ida. He lost his voice. He finally got it back, so he was able to join us. Please remember the Christmas Crusade is coming up. You can help a child here in Livingston Parish have a Merry Christmas, especially post-Ida, as you said. A very good program to have. Please remember the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time.